What do you feel when someone says, "Oh, you do rap" or something? You know, is that sort of a different genre or related? Or
well, they are definitely related. So I do some of my poetry definitely does lean towards more the rap hip hop style, and others less so. But there's a definite crossover between the performance poetry scene and the hip hop rap scene. There's a lot of different artists that sort of dabble in both, because obviously they're all about words and poetic words and rhyme schemes and that sort of thing. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of crossover, and a lot of crossover in terms of both within the performance poetry scene and within the hip-hop scene. There's a lot to do with social consciousness and social justice and those sort of issues, and and definitely both those scenes have sort of been birthed in many ways out of social conscious movements and social justice type movements. So it's a big crossover too.
So do you consciously write pieces that raise the consciousness of people for social justice issues? Yeah,
totally. Yep. That's definitely a passion of mine, and something that drives and inspires me is to... I think poetry can be written as both as self-expression, trying to get out what's inside, but as soon as you get out what's inside, it's spoken to someone, and it becomes a social statement, whether you like it or not. And so for me, I'm very particular in making sure that my social statements are in line with my values and my passions and that sort of thing. And so I do seek to create a message with the words that I write. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, if we have a piece of yours that leans more towards the social justice
sure.
things, and then we can talk about what sort of work you're doing in that field.
Yeah, sure. That sounds fine. I might do... it's coming up to Sorry Day very soon, I think it is. Is that? So I might actually do... This is a poem called This Land, dedicated to my Indigenous brothers and sisters. Speak on, Doug Nichols. Speak on, William Cooper. Speak on, Shadrach James. For your roots... They grow deep in this land, back to the time when you were sculpted from this earth and your clay body was given life by the breath of Bunjil, the eagle. Out of your dreaming, life was born. And so I see that you have lived here much longer than I. For my people, we did not settle in this country, we stole it. We came and gave you the scriptures and told you of a loving God as we took your land and poisoned its heart, as we took your tongue and inscribed it with our own, as we took your women and inscribed them with our men, as we took your culture and set fire to your stories, making nightmares from your dreamings and diseases in your bodies. We took the head off your dignity and buried our own. When we came as the civilized ones, put a bounty on your head, and legally we shot you and starved you, enslaved you and maimed you. With words like savages we berated you, till in our might we overpowered you, till in our fear we defeated you. And you wept, all dead, all dead, all gone, all gone. So speak on, Charles Dixon, speak on, Patrick Dodson, for you are outcasts in your homeland. You are the skeletons in our closets. You are the ones who expose this lie that we are the civilized ones, the progressive ones, the humane ones. For white Australia has a black history, these years of occupation, and black Australia has a white history, these years of domination. And so tomorrow when the war began, we would cheer on Ellie and Corey and Homer and Lee. But yesterday the war did begin, and I wonder who we were cheering for. Did Pemulwuy do what we all would have done? Did Bennelong sit in his cove that day, wondering as the ships entered to stay just how long these ghosts, these strangers would remain? 1 week? 2? What about 200 years and still repeating? Maybe you were right to think it was the devil that landed on the sand in your homeland that day. And so I wonder when the ships landed and declared your land terra nullius, whether the 250 tribes and hundreds of thousands of people living as one with this land for tens of thousands of years would somehow disagree. So would you speak on, Margaret Tucker, speak on, Pearl Gibbs, speak on, Eric Onus, for we may be the new Australians, but you, my friends, are the old, and your veins run strong with the blood of those first ones, those many in this land so many years ago, and so Your sons and your daughters fished the waters where thousands of years before their great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers fished the same and caught the same. These rivers that connect you to the ancestors of your past. These rivers run red with the blood of their children. These rivers run red. These rivers run dry. So speak, for the blood-stained footprints are slowly fading. Speak, for each passing year and each changing season, the histories have been written, but each page was constructed, each person adjusted, each history tainted, till the truth of a genocide in this land of sweeping plains was swept under carpets and whispered around corners, a shadow story of myth long forgotten, of a war that once stained this dark earth red and yet would never make it into my school books. For it is far easier to turn our eyes to Hitler and to Stalin, to wars where we fought the evil ones rather than when we had become them. It is easier to turn our eyes, it is easier to turn our hands, till the truth of a genocide in this land of sweeping plains was swept under carpets and whispered around corners. So, to Victoria, to a population reduced from 60,000 to 2,000 in 30 years. This is our genocide. This is our killing fields. This is our history. And I am ashamed. So would you spear pierce my body as you once pierced our Governor Philip? And would you speak on? Speak on, Simon Wonga. Speak on, William Barak. Speak on, for this is your land. Speak on.
Very powerful stuff. What sort of response do you get from people when you put out something as strong as that?
Yeah. A lot of positive response. A lot of positive response. But definitely you do get the occasional defensive sort of response, and I try to work with that as best as I can. I mean, part of poetry is that it is self-expression, and so it's me trying to come to grips with my own people's history, and so that's been obviously whenever you do that, whenever you put out something so confronting, definitely people are challenged by it, and they struggle to take it on sometimes. But a lot of people do come up to me. I've had a lot of people come up, especially with this piece and some other pieces, come up in tears sharing about how it touched them, and either because they had no idea, like me growing up in school, this sort of these indigenous, a lot of our indigenous history just was not spoken, wasn't part of the curriculum. And so for some people, as I share this, it's the first time they hear things like in Victoria that our population was reduced from 60,000 to 2,000 in 30 years, and they're shocked by that. And other people who have been moving this way for a long time, and so hearing someone on a stage speak this out is quite an affirming thing for them.
I was just asking you off air about collaborating and what you thought of that, maybe joining up with a musician or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. So part of what I actually want to do this year is bringing together an album with a friend of mine named Mina Shamali. He's a composition student. So heading in exactly that direction. So it'll be spoken word with music of different styles coming beneath it. And so he'll do some stuff, but we'll bring in some other people as well. So with the plan is another friend of mine plays a lot of didgeridoo, so we're going to get him to come in and do some stuff backing to the poem that I just did. And yeah, so definitely collaboration is something that I want to head into doing with these pieces. Yeah.
Excellent. Now, apart from speaking on social justice issues, you're also involved in them as part of your daily life. So you want to talk to us about that?
Yeah, totally. So, I do a lot of speaking, actually, not just poetry, but so I'm a lecturer at a college, and a lot of my teaching is focused around this stuff as well. So I teach things like societal influence and worldview foundations, and we cover a lot of sociology and justice type issues. So that's definitely sort of my major area of contributing to a greater cause bigger than myself, is in terms of being an educator, and working with young people and helping them in terms of social engagement and that sort of thing.